Oilfield. Oilfield implies upstream, drilling/fracking, offshore rigs, etc., but the same can be said for downstream, refineries, chemical plants, etc. For folks like operators, welders, and inspectors, there's hardly any educational requirement, and the biggest requirements are showing up on time, passing drug tests, and learning the procedures that others teach you. It's pretty easy to make six figures in those roles too. You'd be surprised with how hard it is to find people that show up on time and pass the drug test. Source: work in the oil industry. Took my comment. My company has a backlog of people they would like to fire for good reasons, but every new person we get proves unreliable and dishonest. Source: energy and data center industries garbage disposal service. Yep. I work as a sorter at a construction/demolition yard and am currently making $30 an hour as a 21-year-old. Plus, if you're lucky, your bosses might put you on extra training that qualifies you for even more work in and out of the industry. Only real big issue is how dirty I get. Still, $30 an hour. Hey, that's my job too. There's good money in it and you learn a truckload of skills along the way just working alongside so many different types of tradesmen. Yeah man, it's underrated cause how dirty you get, but so far I've gotten a free WHS cert, excavator ticket and general knowledge that I didn't have before. WHS cert? Yep. WHS cert may not be the best thing to call it, but it is the Health and Safety Representative course. The HSR role is a voted position by the elected worker's teammate. The role of the HSR is to represent the workers on safety issues when in that particular work group. I manage the yard, my coworker manages the truck drivers. It's a $700 course that I got for free that is recognized in most states in Australia. I use the legislation/cops etc. to make sure my bosses stay compliant/the workers feel safe. Traffic control. I paid $400 to join the laborers union and started making $31 an hour the next day. No experience. Absolutely the most boring job ever, but we traveled a lot and saved $1. What part did the laborers union play? Because I just googled it and see a posting for the job in my city for $15 per hour, but I'm more interested in this $31 per hour. The union provided insurance, retirement benefits and other things if you stayed for more than 10 years. The dues were about $45 a month. Train driver/conductor/engineer/whatever they are called in your country. That's actually something I might want to get into later. I'm currently getting an English degree at uni. Although there are quite some jobs in that field in the Netherlands, I might just reschool myself as a train driver a few years down the line. Only takes 2 years, the pay starts average and gets really good a few years in. I love traveling by train, and I feel like I would love the freedom feel of driving the train itself. Only downside to this job is the many suicides by train. Around 200 people every year. Yup, that downside caused our neighbor to stop with her job. Even therapy didn't help anymore with all the nightmares and anxiety she had. I mean, it's hard to see somebody jump in front of your train, and not being able to do anything to avoid it. Seeing what it did with her. I'm not so keen to try it. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't mind becoming a train driver as well. Also in the Netherlands BTW. I lost my brother 5.5 years ago when he committed suicide by jumping in front of a train. I hadn't talked to him in 6 years and hadn't seen him for 12 years, all because of a stupid argument and holding a grudge. He left everyone a note except me. Not even one word, yet wrote others full-page letters. He was my only family member I had left. Lost my mom to suicide at age 5 and my father had a massive heart attack in front of me at age 15. To anyone holding a grudge and not speaking to someone, just please pick up the phone and call them. I should have called him, I could have called him. Hardest lesson I've ever learned. Please don't be like I was. Make the call while you still can. I was on an Amtrak train a few weeks back. If you live in the United States. Conductor told me that a quarter of their workers are retiring within the next decade and they need new people. He said you can start out at $70,000 a year with benefits and within 3 to 5 years could be making $100,000. No experience needed. That blew me away. I'd check it out if I were you. Edit. I don't work for Amtrak. I just heard this in passing from a conductor on a train in the Northeast Corridor. Take this post with a grain of salt and do your research. To be fair, a quarter of their workers retiring within the next decade doesn't sound like a high number. If they repeat that stat every decade, their average employee will have a 35-year career, which seems pretty reasonable. Edit. I made an unfair assumption in my initial mental math. I believe the average career would be closer to 40 years, not 35, given only the information we have. And baby boomers are a larger than average generation, so as they retire, I assume many industries will be losing a quarter of their employees in the next decade. That's assuming they can retire. If I'm not mistaken, as a whole, boomers are not saving nearly enough for retirement. And many of them just won't be able to. As a millennial, man, I just cannot wait until the boomers have one more reason to hate me. Before the millennials are refusing to take care of their aging parents articles begin. I clean garbage trucks for $38 an hour. Damn, what state? Union or non-union? In Australia, mate. You've got yourself a new neighbor. Anything that involves physical risk. Anything you can think of besides police or fire? I need a job and am fine with dying. U.S. Marines recruiting wants to know your location. He said high paying, not $19,000. If you get married in California, bump that up to $60K, and benefits. Plumbing. After your apprenticeship you can make $80,000 a year. U.S. salaries are insane. A qualified plumber here in UK is like $25K a year lol, and during apprenticeship lucky at $15K a year. That's probably because of the difference in prices. I was a plumber's helper for a couple years. The markup that goes on is unbelievable. It really is insane. I've saved myself hundreds, thousands, by knowing how to work with copper plumbing. Plumbers will often charge you $100.00 to install a new fixture, which can be done by most people in 30 minutes. Also, HVAC guys make a killing. I was taking quotes on a new system for an older home and was getting prices from $12-15K. Family friend fixed the unit for $175.00 and said he would rebuild the unit if I wanted and install a new compressor for $8K. He said it was the lowest he could go because he still had to make some money on the deal. My dad is a plumber and my mom worked with him in kind of the apprentice position. I worked with him a lot growing up. Most plumbers have a minimum charge to come out to your house, usually the cost of an hour or two of labor, because if they don't they won't make any money. A plumber's day consists of a lot of driving and most don't charge for that. They can't just clock in the morning and clock out in the evening and get paid for those hours. If every job for a given day is small, it can easily get to the point where you're in the truck half the day, not generating money. Plumbers charge what seems like a lot of money because they have to cover wages, fuel, consumables, keeping their license up to date, vehicle maintenance, tools, insurance both for their vehicles and for the homes they work in, and most have a shop of some kind somewhere that they need to pay for. My parents charged $95 an hour, but they brought home less than half of it, before paying taxes and health insurance. They were also working as an individual, not for a larger company. With the two of them working, that money essentially counted as two wages for their situation. You're paying for their knowledge and the fact that you don't have to mess with it. Pipeline laborer. I got paid weekly. With LOA after taxes I was making $3,000 a week. 2 weeks of training and literally zero experience got me there. Can you tell me more? Also, you earn more than an engineer? Pipeline laborers and especially welders or other skilled workers can definitely make more than pipeline engineers in the right location at the right time. Sometimes much more. The work and wages are more volatile though, since OT plays a big role in the market, can get oversaturated and see wages go down. Diver for sewage plants. Some parts get stuck and need to be cleaned by hand. I mean, you'll grow extra fingers, but I suppose that just helps with maths. I work at a sewage plant and without diving still get paid good. $32 per hour. 12-hour shifts. Made just above $95K this year. I really don't think divers are used very often. You would need to dive in multiple settings or travel the world doing it in wastewater. Chemical plant worker. Started at $15/hour off the street with zero skills, 4 years later, at $30/hour. We work swing shifts, so every month you get 104 hours with $3/hour shift differential for afternoons, overnights, and 48 of those hours are time and a half. Throw in a reasonable amount of voluntary overtime, hit over $100K/annual, which I personally consider to be high paying. Edit to clarify, a full month rotation is 168 hours. 104 of them are on-off shifts with a differential pay bump, and 48 of the hours monthly are built-in overtime, 12-hour weekend shifts. Gonna try to answer a few questions here. People are not realizing how many different types of shifts there are for plant work. They also aren't taking into consideration shutdowns, basic odd, working for other workers, holidays, or just the long shifts in general, which are almost always 12 hours everywhere. Odd is how we make our money. Starting out at $15 HR and making $30 HR in 4 years is absolutely reasonable if the person in question works hard, learns fast, Takes every training/certification/licensing class they can and puts forth the effort. This is not always the case, but it can be done. The help of working for a good company to begin with is also important. Some companies don't care about you at all and some companies treat you like family. We get paid a lot because of the stuff we have to learn, hours we work, stress on our bodies, physical/mental/emotional, and chemicals we have to be around. We take these jobs knowing we are probably going to get cancer, or something else, depending on the chemical you're around, but the pay is good while I'm young and I have kids to feed and send to school. I have a house note and 2 car payments, by necessity, not choice. My wife is going to school, my roof has a hole in it, my AC is about to go out in the house, and my driveway is fucked. I didn't want any of this, but my mom living situation was toxic and I had to do what was best for my child. I can't afford a babysitter, but I make enough that my wife doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to. It's not what I wanted to do. Waking up at 4 a.m. every day, working weekends all the time, not seeing my kids before bed or on holidays or getting to eating lunch with them at school, being too tired/depressed on the weekends to want to do anything. That shit sucks, but it's the path my life went. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, but I don't have time for school and I can't afford to start somewhere else because of my bills. I'm sure I'm just making up excuses, but I'm fucking tired. I'm married to an amazing woman, but I'm lonely and depressed. I feel like I don't have anyone to talk to, but I'm a man cause I work a lot. Lol, whatever nib. Stripper. In fact I think they prefer you to not have decades of experience. Drug dealer. I'm a substance abuse counselor and I can confirm some of my clients made way more money than me when they were dealing drugs. The guy I buy weed from is 20 and he makes roughly $2,000 a week in profit. It's not fair, but at least I can call the police if I get robbed. Railroad. Yep, my dad is an engineer and makes great money. He works hard for it. It's not an easy job, but they provide all the training you need and give you a chance to make bank. Just being able to tell people you're in training would be worth it. Jobs that pay well are generally going to either be hard to get into or hard to put up with. Do yourself a favor and stick with the ones that are hard to get into. Words of wisdom. I'm a degreed engineer. I was privileged to graduate from college with no student debt, but for most, that situation isn't possible. I always say that the best thing about my degree is that at the end of the day, I have the freedom to leave a job that's hard to put up with and find a more desirable one. Under normal economic circumstances, I will probably always have access to a specific job pool, targeting people with a certain knowledge set and a paper to prove it. But college isn't always the answer. There are plenty of high-paying jobs you can get the quick and dirty way, but many of them aren't pretty. I actually work with a lot of highly paid operators. From what I can tell, I deal with a lot less BS than them based on how much I listen to them gripe and groan about work. They only stay around for the dollar. The college versus trade school versus no further education decision is answered by a couple questions. How much debt are you willing to acquire to get to do the job you desire? Is the job you desire generally valued by society? How desired is your role on the job market? Are you willing to sacrifice your pay and financial stability for the job you desire? It's up to the candidate to decide. This is a really good point and kinda my reasoning as well. I'm a recent engineering graduate and I work closely with operators. They make great money, but the working environment and work-life balance just isn't for everyone. That's something a lot of people don't take into consideration. I would personally get paid less, yet still a really good salary, to have a much better work-life balance. But if that's not something you care about, then you do you.